My first job paid me $6.50 an hour. 5 years later, I hit $100,000 in net worth. 2 years after that, $100,000 in stock portfolio, and 9 years after that, I crossed $1 million in stock portfolio. But today, I'm not going to talk about that $1 million. I'm going to show you step by step how I reached that first $100,000 in net worth. It didn't come from a lucky lottery ticket or a hard stock pick. It came from long nights, losing jobs, stupid mistakes, and yes, plenty of butter chicken and naan over the weekends. If you think the first $100,000 is impossible, let me prove it to you. It's not. It was 2005. I had just landed in the US for my master's program. I still remember that feeling, excitement mixed with fear. I had dreams in my pocket and about $200 in my bank account. My first job was at Aramark Cafe, serving food and mopping floor for $6.50 an hour. After that, I worked at a computer lab for $6.80 an hour. Life wasn't glamorous. I shared a 2-bedroom apartment with 6 of my roommates. The kitchen looked like a battlefield and the fridge was a mix of random leftovers, and you had to fight for bathroom in the morning. And even though I was broke, I made dumb choices. Starbucks was my guilty pleasure, so $5 a drink when my hourly wage was $6.80. Looking back, it was of course crazy, but at that time, it felt like a tiny luxury and I couldn't give up. I was living paycheck to paycheck just like millions of people do. By 2007, I had graduated with $30,000 in student loan. The job market wasn't great. The subprime mortgage crisis was hitting hard, but I was lucky to land a job with $60,000 a year. And let me tell you, I felt like a king. Movies on the release day with my girlfriend, lunches out every day at work, and weekends always dinner out, usually butter chicken and naan at our favorite Indian place. I had never seen that kind of money before, so naturally I spent it like it was endless. But here's the kicker. Feeling rich and being rich are two different things. My take-home pay was about $3,500 a month, and when you break it down, it wasn't much. $500 for rent, I was splitting with a roommate, $100-ish for lunches at work, $400 for movies, shopping, and random stuff, and I used to save around $500. So on paper, I was doing okay, but one decision changed everything. Out of curiosity, I opened a simple spreadsheet and listed everything I owned and everything I owed, and that's when the illusion shattered. My net worth wasn't positive. It wasn't even zero. It was negative. From that day forward, I started throwing $2,000 a month at my student loan. Every paycheck, no excuses. It, of course, wasn't glamorous, but for the first time, I felt like I was actually moving forward. By 2009, I was deep into my student loan payoff plan. Every month, $2,000 was going out of my account into my student loan. It wasn't fun, but the debt was finally melting away. And then came the wedding. I had to fly back to India for that. And that's when reality hit me at work. My manager sat me down and said, "You can't take more than 2 weeks off. And if you do, it won't be a paid leave. And honestly, you might just lose your job." Now imagine this. You just started getting ahead financially, you are killing your debt, and suddenly you are faced with a choice. Career security or the most important event of your life. I thought about it for maybe 2 seconds. No way I was flying halfway across the world for just 14 days. I booked 45 days, and when I came back, my job was gone. People around me thought I was crazy, but you know what? I never regretted that decision for a second, because sometimes you need to remind yourself that money is important, but family and faith comes first. Losing that job hurt, but it also pushed me to think differently about income, about risk, and about how to take control of my money instead of letting a company control me. And that mindset is what set me up for the next big leap. Around the same time, another big expense came knocking: a car. I had managed without a car for years. My office, Walmart, and the shopping complex were walking distance. My girlfriend at that time had a car, so we went everywhere together. But now that we were married, car wasn't an option anymore. I had to buy it. And by the way, I married my girlfriend. And here's where Dave Ramsey enters the story. Every day at 1 p.m., I used to tune into his show. The debt-free screams, the callers ripping up the credit card, it all hit me. And I thought, that's the life I want to live, a debt-free life. No car payment, no loans, nothing. But here was the problem. Car I wanted was $22,000. And my salary was just $60,000. That wasn't enough to cover it in cash. On top of that, I had just lost my job. So I had a choice: settle for something cheap and beaten up, or find a way to earn more. I chose option number 2. I jumped into a contracting role. My salary jumped from $60,000 to $85,000, $90,000 with overtime. And suddenly the math changed. I bought the car on financing, but here's the twist. I hated the debt so much that I paid it off just in a few months. Every extra hour of overtime went straight into that loan. That's when I learned that if you don't let the debt linger linger, you can move on to building wealth much, much faster. By the end of 2009, our financial picture looked completely different. The student loan was paid off. Car, it was already paid off. And savings were around $30,000 in the bank. And my wife was already working, so she added another $40,000 a year to our household income. And suddenly, we were not just two broke kids trying to make it. We were a team, and that made all the difference. Let's be real. I wasn't perfect. I put around $20,000 in the S&P 500. That was a smart move. But then I put $10,000 in a pharma stock during the swine flu panic. I thought I was clever. This company is about to make a breakthrough, and I will make a fortune out of it. Instead, I tanked. That loss hurt, but it taught me something I have never forgotten. Stock picking wasn't my game. Timing the market wasn't my game. Consistency was my game. And with two incomes and a debt-free life, consistency was finally possible. That's when our savings really started to build momentum. Momentum that carried us close to our first $100,000. By 2010, we were finally building the momentum. My S&P 500 portfolio had grown to around $22,000. I saved $40,000 from the salary and overtime. And my wife had saved around $35,000. So together, we were sitting on more cash than I had ever imagined possible just a few years earlier. That's when my wife spotted a foreclosure. She had been watching the house market for years and tracking listings like a hawk. There was this beautiful 3-year-old house, 1,900 square feet, that had been sitting on the market for months now. The price kept dropping, and when it hit $90,000, we made our move. There was a bidding on that house. Our realtor said, just add $3,000 just in case. And we did, and we won the bid. For $93,000, we bought our first home. We put another $6,000 into finishing the basement. And just like that, with $99,000, we had a debt-free house. But here's what I wanted to be clear about. We were not living like cheapskates. Yes, we were disciplined, but we also enjoyed life. Between 2009 and 10, we traveled to Orlando for Disney, to Mauritius, to Singapore, and beautiful Colorado. We still went out on weekends for butter chicken and naan. Yes, of course, we were saving hard, but we were also living life. And that balance of enjoying life while building wealth is what made this journey sustainable. That house was the turning point. It wasn't just an asset. It was the proof that we could be debt-free homeowners in our 20s. What I didn't realize at that time was that this moment set the stage for something even bigger, a milestone that would change everything. Charlie Munger said it the best. The first $100,000 is a bitch, but you gotta do it. And he was right. When our net worth finally crossed $100,000, it didn't feel like being rich. It felt like freedom. For the first time, the money was working harder than me. 2 years later, I hit that $100,000 mark in my stock portfolio, and that's when the real snowball started. But that's a story for another video. Follow Money with Swabi if you're chasing your first $100,000. I have been there, and I will show you what comes next. Your finance friend Sushant, signing off.